A man that started with $5,000 and a coffee cart and built a multi-million-dollar business which he sold.
Systems, efficient, consistent value. And I went, I'm going to be the person in the middle that has all three. I want Australia's #1 brand. I want to be an amazing coffee. That means it mixes well with milk. You don't need to put sugar in your coffee. So I had all these outcomes focused. And I want to be the McDonald's of the industry where I can deliver to you the same coffee time and time again at the best price possible. Not cheap, not expensive. And you got too much to live for. And I was just like, you got young kids, you got that. I went, you know what, you're right. Something's got to change. You got to flip the model. Stop chasing balance, started chasing harmony. I said, what do I need to do to flip this so that it's not work, family, me, it's me, family, work. And selling was one of the catalysts. Strength can be your weakness. A scalpel can be used by a surgeon to actually, save a life, or a scalpel can be used by a thief to hurt somebody. Being futuristic is great because you can see things that other people can't see and you'll be able to execute things that others can't. But slow down. Don't build the 10-story building by missing the foundations underground, by making sure each floor is completely secure. If you're building and you're going to build an empire, then the empire needs to spend a lot of time in the ground building the foundations.
Welcome to Joe Blow. And today we have a man.
Yes,
Good start.
Yes, what's the words these days? I acknowledge as a man, or I identify as a man.
You're not identifying as a cat or anything?
No, my friend,
or a coffee cup?
No.
A man that started with $5,000 and a coffee cart and built a multi-million-dollar business which he sold. Normally I could sit here all day and talk business with you because that's my bread and butter. But I started Joe Blow probably 6 months ago, and the reason was that there are so many Joe Blows out there that have done amazing things and no one hears from them.
Yeah, very true.
And and look, you've obviously done ultra amazing things, but for me the interest is, like we were talking off camera about, you're a wog, I'm a wog.
Yeah.
And I want to know.
Ask about, right?
And I want to know, and that's what I mean. I'll go back there in a minute, but for me, it's like, what was Phil or Philip? Is it Phil or Philip?
Either.
Or PDB?
It's actually it's PDB, but it's actually Filippo.
Felipe.
Filippo in Italian, Filippo. So that runs
that
right.
Better.
Well, Filippo is my birth certificate name, my passport. My license is Philip. So you can imagine the havoc that creates at times. But they think I've got two identities. Yeah, there you go. All in the spirit of revealing things most people wouldn't know.
Yeah. There you go.
PDB, they call me for short. Yeah.
PDB. I've seen that on your posts, your anti-political posts. Don't go into that. We already did. That's another hour in itself. So I guess for me, before I go back to Felipe as a kid, sitting here today, and let's do it as a battery. A battery is 1,000% is amazing, and 1% is you.
Yep.
How happy are you sitting here today, honestly?
Yeah, probably. I'd say probably 90%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be sitting at my battery would be at 90%. It'd never be 100%. I'm a work in progress. I always talk about tomorrow better than today. And my only competition's ever been me. Something that got instilled with me through my parents. Don't look at what others are doing. You can look at what they're doing, but your benchmark is you, and what are you doing to be better tomorrow? So 90%. I'll probably only ever, when I've had it all together, or as close as all together you get, I've probably been at 97 or 98. But got a few things going on at the moment in the personal space. That's a little bit more. It's going well, but it's just different. A few new different things. My daughter's finishing grade 12. My son's about to go into high school. So yeah, I'd be saying about 90%, which is not a bad barometer.
Pretty happy with that. If I split that into 6 categories, give me percentages for each. Family?
Probably 75%.
We'll go back to that one. Finances?
95.
Friends?
90.
Health and fitness?
95 for a change. Sitting on about 2% about 7 years ago.
I know, I was watching your boxing and stuff. We should have a charity fight. No thanks. What about as a husband?
Depends who you ask.
What if I asked your missus?
She'd call me a good family man. She'd call me a good provider. She'd say that I'm very thoughtful, but she'd probably say I'm emotionally demanding, or so yeah, that'd probably let the score down a bit. That'd drop to 75%. Is like, just navigating different needs and wants and different stages of life. You know, we're amazing business partners, amazing parents. The marriage stuff's a work in progress. You know,
Even
22
after all
years.
this time.
Well, 22 years of marriage. I mean, it's
Right.
a long time in different chapters and different needs and wants. But we've always promised each other, you know, you've got to wake up every day and choose to be together. And you know, and let's just say we're doing some exploration work at the moment that, you know, that is about learning and where we are and where we want to be and all that sort of stuff. And at the end of the day, no one writes the future. We don't know what it looks like. So it's all part of that journey. And you know, whether it's right or wrong, it's got to work. It's got to work for you as an individual. And so it's a journey at the moment. It's a journey.
Interesting. What about as a father?
Oh, father, I love being a father. I love it.
What percentage do you give yourself?
I'm a hard marker. I give myself, you know, probably an 8 out of 10. Where I want to spend a bit more time is actually the one-on-one side, especially at the age of kids now, being nearly 18, nearly 16, is that one-on-one. So I take my son to school and make sure, you know, making a bit more of an effort to talk about certain interests that he has, you know, and what he's doing and what he thinks of the business world. And they were both working on Saturday at the commune, and so I had a good chat over the last couple of mornings saying, hey, what's working there, what's not, what do you think about some of the team members, what would they say about you? Because I've noticed very easy to just get quiet in the car and I'm thinking about the day ahead and he's thinking about his day ahead and they're on their phones and you know, and the rest of it. So that's an area I can really get better at is and navigating. The daughter's the interesting one because she's amazing. They're both amazing kids, touch wood, and they're healthy, which is the most amazing thing. You know, which is just we take for granted sometimes. But it's the Great 12, so it's you want to know what's going on and you want to know what's going on in their life, but you've also got to give them that space because the pressure's on. And I mean, my daughter's last 6 examinations or assignments have been full marks. And I just look at that and go, I never got full marks in my life.
Even added together.
That's exactly the problem. You know, and I just go, okay, so where do you know, the self-learning of how much do you sort of step into it to want to talk to them? Well, of course, we always talk, you know, good morning, is there any problems? You need any help with anything? What can I do to do? You know, what's making you happy, what's not? But I mean, really, you know, you don't want to launch into a 1-hour discussion on politics or university courses when she's got this chapter to get through. So that's a learning, you know, how much a little bit, same at work, right? When to push a bit harder, when to back off. You know, none of us get it perfect, and I'm quite sensory. I'm a visual learner and a listening and an auditory learner. So I really sort of sense what's going on around and listen and watch and to try and get that. But I'm a work in progress, and I used to be hard on myself because of that. Now I've actually leaned into that. I turned 50 this year and sort of went, hey, what's the next decade look like? And I think that the cleaning out of decades is quite refreshing. You get into a new decade and you go, wow, you know, let's look at the next 10 years and let's look at the next 10 years. And so it's been a reset for me. And mate, I don't get everything right. I get a lot wrong because of who I am and how I operate. I know I can annoy people. I know I can demand from people. But I always demand more from myself. So that internal chat at times can be, hey, where am I at? Where am I not? So, you know, and that's why I probably help explain those percentages a bit. Why they're a little bit all over the place. You know, but where am I sitting across the board? And you'd be sitting about 90%, right? Because one thing I've learned that I haven't really shared a lot of in the past is you turn 50, and what lesson did I learn? That was April this year, and I said, I've actually got the model now for success that applies to everybody. And that is, it's a triangle, right? The health at the top, you know, the healthier you're not. And then it's time and money down the bottom, right? And it's enough time and enough money to do what you want when you want. My dad was a migrant. He earned $450 a week. Didn't want to go. He'd never been back overseas. Never gone on a plane outside of Australia. So he didn't need the money that somebody needs to fly every year or to buy a plane. So the money was relevant. He said, I had house paid off, good food on the table, brought up 3 kids, couldn't send you to private schools, but sent you to the best state schools. You always had good clothes, you had good food, and secure home. No one was going to come knocking and taking the home away. And that's what he valued, and to me, that's success. Whereas other people might say, hey, no, I want 3 houses and I want to retire at 50 and I want to be able to drive fancy cars, and that's okay too. So one thing I've really leaned into this year is, you know, and I do a lot of speaking and speak to people and say, well, you know, because I'm young enough to sort of relate to the younger people and old enough to know better.
Hanging in there.
I think, mate. Fuck, I drive past, signs now going, retirement village 55, and I'm like, hey, for real?
I know, I see it and I think, I'm 55, and I'm like...
Yeah, well, you don't look it, so you're doing all right.
No, I keep pretty fit and healthy, and now I'm just thinking, I'd tear that place apart.
Yeah, I can imagine me in a retirement home, and I mean just the words.
Imagine both of us in there.
Oh shit, that'd be finished.
I think things burn down.
Yeah, either that or we'd be.
Or we'd rev
we'd be
everyone
oversubscribed.
up. Yeah, and we'd pull everyone out and get them living in proper places.
But that's been, and that's the. I love learning. I don't like the pressure of learning, but I like the fluidity and flow of learning. And I really do come back to those life mottos. Am I being better today than I was yesterday? And acknowledging that sometimes I'm going to take a step back to go 3 steps forward.
It sounds like when you were talking about there's 2 things I want to go through. One thing is, it sounds like I feel like you're a better father now. Were you an absent father, do you think?
I was, because I was travelling.
When you were doing all that and you weren't.
Yeah.
Did you lose your kids at all?
No, I never lost them, touch wood, and that's where, Jana, my wife, G, I refer to her as G, she is unbelievable, right? She was amazing support, she's an amazing mother. She's right there with the kids, and she really stepped in because I was travelling 3 weeks a month, which is not easy. Forget me. I mean, it wasn't easy on me. I was overweight and put on weight because I was travelling, wasn't eating properly. But just on the family household, I mean, you're making plenty of money, but you're not there. You've got kids growing up. You've got your kids sending you messages by phone. Papa, I hope you're being healthy. I hope you're eating, because I wasn't eating breakfast or lunch and then having dinner at 10 at night and then going to bed. So I put on weight over 10, 12 years, right? I actually eat more now than I've ever eaten. But, you go back to those times and you go, no, you can't be present. You're coming back 1 week a month, and when you're working. Like, I'm getting through a shitload of work. And you come home and it's like, okay, let's do this, family, and let's do that, and let's do this. And it's like, hang on. No, you march to the beat of our drum. I mean, what do you mean I'm marching to the beat of your drum? Like, come on, this is not what I'm used to. I'm only here a week a month, let's get going. And they're like, no, you've got to step in and flow with us. So, there's a bit of resentment there. Not from my kids, probably more from my wife, a bit of resentment. But we always work through it. Like, we've had issues, we've always had issues. And I don't think anyone that's pushed hard in all 3 areas, personally, professionally, and family, have never had any issues. I think that's a crock of shit. But everyone's issues are different things to different people, right? But when you're pushing hard, and I was pushing hard in business, I was pushing myself physically hard in the wrong way. And I can look back now and go, I was pushing the family dynamics pretty hard too, because, 2 young kids is not easy, at the time. So, and that ultimately became the catalyst for making the decision to sell in 2014, to sign the agreement, and then walked out in 2017, when everything finalised. It was the weight, it was the children, it was the whole lot. I had to become a better husband, had to become a better father, and had to become a better human, right?
What would have happened if you stayed in the
game? As my doctor said, you're the fittest fat fuck I know, and you're going to just have a heart attack one day. And I went,
what about in terms of the family unit? Do you think you would have lost it all?
Yeah, I think so.
Just a rich, lonely guy? Or?
Yeah, and define rich, right? I mean, no use having enough money to do what you want if your kids don't want to know who you are. I mean, your wife, your partner will come and go, can come and go, right? It might not, might do, but your kids never leave you because you've made them, right? And I think, without being, I call it the way it is, as you know, I would never want to be sitting here saying my kids don't want to know me. There could be a time when my wife says I don't want to know you, or I don't want to be with you, but I certainly would never want that for my kids. So that is the priority. And what I had to learn was, in order to be in that position, I had to be a better person. I had to make sure I got my blood pressure under control. I had to make sure that I slowed down and listened to people, that everything wasn't high octane and running next level. Some people now that I haven't seen for years will go, are you okay? And they go, what do you mean?
Are you stoned?
Yeah, well, I've been asked that before too. It's like, are you on CBD or something?
Slow.
Because you tamed it all down and you're slow. And I've gone, well, you start to prioritise what's important, but you can't run at that level at all times. So being a top performer or a high performer is good, but it's got to go in sprints, right? Otherwise you burn out. And I'd never burnt out, but I think I was getting pretty close.
You mentioned that your wife would say you're emotionally dependent. Why?
I came from a family that was really together. Like my mum still, God bless him, he just turned 89. Mum's 81, and you ring and ask how she is, and all she tells me is how he is. She still puts his pajamas and undies on the bed before he goes to have a shower at night. She goes and turns back the quilt before he gets into bed. That's how together. And my wife came from a different upbringing, unfortunately. Her mum's amazing, and her dad, unfortunately, he's passed away, so I won't speak ill of the past. But he left a lot to be desired, and her upbringing was a lot different to mine. And so at times I think I've got that neediness of that
Yeah, okay.
together, and she does find that and would find that smothering. And I've got that. I want her to be independent, but sometimes I need, it's nice to have your wife dependent on you as well. And there's probably too much independence at times. So, and it's not one's not right or wrong. It's just different, and we've navigated different for 22 years, and it's worked, and all the rest of it. So far, right? But that's the best analysis I can give it. Is that when people say, oh, people go different chapters and different roads, and ours already started off on a different road, and it's been an amazing story, and it's been an amazing journey, and I wouldn't change it for the world. Can we say the same in 5, 10, 22 years time? I don't know. But it's definitely, you can analyse what's happened in the past. You can't predict what's going to happen in the future. So I can sit here retrospect and look at the past and go, what's worked, and so much has worked, and what hasn't worked, and there's been a lot that hasn't worked, and I can dissect where it hasn't worked from my perspective. I mean, G could be sitting there giving a totally different story.
I'll bring her in the podcast next week, and it'll be totally different.
There you go. But it's and that's the best way I can talk about it. I mean, you can't like everybody 100% of the time, not even yourself, right?
Love that.
And even workers, there's going to be times that just piss you off, and there's sometimes you're going to want to hug them to death. And I think the common denominator I've learned is yourself. Is how do you deal with that, like as a person? Because I can't control anyone else.
No.
I can only control me, right? It's like one of the new ones I love listening to a lot of Robin Sharma stuff. Is no one can make you feel anything. I went, oh, hang on. And if you just sit back and listen to people now when they argue or they talk or they discuss, the amount of times people say, you're making me feel, and you go, hang on a minute, no one can make you feel anything. They can influence, they can have an impact, but at the end of the day, you decide how you feel, and that's been my journey the last, probably, 60 to 90 days is really honing in on, how am I feeling and what's the environment doing, but why am I feeling like this? Because no one makes you feel anything. You feel what you want to feel. You choose whether you wake up and smile and all the rest of it. Because, I love seeing those people that are always happy, and then you sit down and say, tell me a little bit about your story. And you go, holy jeez, that's what's happening. You smile every day. Yeah, because I choose to.
Yeah.
And you go, that is so freaking inspirational. It's not funny.
I love it. I mean, that's the other thing. I see a shrink every 3 weeks, and I have for 3 years. And it's just now I go there and I think, what are we going to talk about? And the biggest thing she's taught me in the last year is to be more accountable.
Yeah.
And and years ago I would blame exes and this and that, and she was just always, you're not going to go anywhere unless you start sitting in the mud and being accountable. Like, if you're going to keep blaming your ex, guess what you do? You just go, I'll move on to the next one, instead of going, what did I do wrong? What do I do wrong?
And it's a good point, because that's one thing I don't do. I don't blame things have gone wrong. I don't blame my kids. I don't blame, my wife. I don't blame people. I just go, hang on a minute. I did a team talk this morning with a new production team. And I said, hey guys, we do win as a team and we do lose as a team, and we've had some losses in terms of some production quality stuff go wrong because of the wrong people, and that all starts with me. And they're looking at me going, what do you mean it starts with you? I said, well, I haven't been across it at my level high enough down to the next person who hasn't been across it, and it flows down. But it starts with me, because if I don't turn the tap on or off, no water hits the bottom. And they just went, holy geez, and a couple of new members were like, is he always this accountable to their team leader? And I went, oh yeah, he's going to be hard on us, but he'll be hard on himself.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as us and them, right? It's we. I turn up, you need something. I tell them, here's the vision, here's the parameters, tell me what you need to make it happen. Tell me what success, I'm going to tell you what success looks like to me, because I'm the one with responsibility and all the rest of it. But I'm going to give you the parameters and the support and the resources that you need to achieve what I want you to achieve. Your job is to ask, because if you don't communicate, I don't know. And I'm not coming here to presume. So speak up, communicate. Something goes wrong, tell us. I don't think you come to work to burn coffee. I don't think you come to work to pack bad orders. But if you try and cover it up 3 times, then you've really overstepped.
Yeah.
And that's my expectation, is don't cover up stuff-ups. Fix them.
Yeah.
And then we work out how we get better. And that was the chat that I gave today, because we had a couple of stuff-ups last week that I'm just not happy with. And I get in the ground and get in the mud, I get in the trenches with the team, and the last thing they expect is shit. Especially me, they see me as this icon in the industry, and they're like, we just had a couple of people join us from Merlot, and great, obviously Merlot does a great job with their team because they're amazing team workers, and they've joined us, and they're just like, holy geez, this is next level. You know, like Phil, you know, we've been here a week and we've met Phil straight away, and he comes and talks to us, and you know, and he's active, but you know, and he's up here in that industry, and so he does, you know, the status thing, but which leads to one of the words is perception, right? Is you know, and brand's one of my wheelhouses, right? Brand is what people say when you're not in the room. So there's a lot of people that are going to presume a lot about my brand, but they've never met me.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
interesting.
It's a perception thing. You know, like I'll share one with you that a lot of listeners will go, "What the fuck?" I'm completely extroverted in two cases: when I'm amongst friends and family, and when I need to go on a stage to talk to hundreds or thousands of people or present. When we go to a party and I don't know 90% of the audience, I'm the one who comes in and goes round the sidewall to the back. I'm the complete introvert.
Sounds like me.
Philip DeVella, introvert.
Yeah,
Completely.
I'm the same.
I don't walk in going,
You're so quiet and shy. And I said, I don't know. It's just me here, stages, my business, everything else, videos.
Because that's part of the journey, and that's a part of the perception, and that's part of what you need to do. I keep it all authentic. But if I'm going on stage to speak, like on the weekend, I was at a night out conference, 120 odd people. This Wednesday, I'm in Sydney with 600 people, Australian swim schools. I didn't know that there was that many swim schools, but you know, I'm presenting at their conference, and people go, "Oh my God, this guy's extroverted." But as soon as I come off that stage, if it's off to lunch or it's off to a function with them, I'm just the quiet person. I talk to everyone that comes over to me because it's not me, right? It's not me walking into a room going, "Show pony, look at me. Hey, look how great I am." You know, or want to be. You know, it's and that's the thing. It comes back to that word perception. There's a lot of perception out there, right and wrong, of anybody and anything. And what I try and do in the workspace and do it at family with my family, do it with everybody, is say, well, hang on, is this reality or is this your perception? You know, when people say, oh, such and such said that you're aggressive and you're an asshole. Okay, have they ever met me? I didn't ask them that question. I said, next time somebody says something about anybody, first question I ask them is, have you met them? And you'll find 90% of the time they go, oh no, I heard this. Well, no, not what did you hear? Like, have you met Tom? You know, have you actually met him? Have you sat down and had a coffee with him? Have you spoken to him? No, I haven't. Well, I'm not interested in what you think of Tom because you're giving me data that is relevant and not useful, right? And the wrong data is dangerous. So, I mean, we can use a myriad of examples, but how quickly people jump to conclusions when they don't know what's actually... And we do it in the workplace.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, this worker's no good, or this, why are they no good? You know, is it just they're having a bad patch right now, or they've got one thing wrong, or two things wrong, or they're going through something in their life that they need to share with somebody, and they've got sick kids? What is it? Let's break this down and add that human element. As we do with our customers and our clients, let's add the human element to ourselves, you know, and to our workers, to our family, to our circle, you know, that we have around us.
So, Phil the introvert.
Yeah.
Take me back. I'm really keen. This is the part I always enjoy. So I've got Phil. I've worked you out. Felipe, I've worked out now. But take me back to 15-year-old Felipe to say 18.
Yeah.
Like, what was he like? Was he loud, quiet, nerdy, party guy, womanizer, smart guy?
Yeah, good question.
Like, what was he like back then?
15-year-old me was actually a little bit nervous because I was on the edge of I call it the WOG cusp, where, it wasn't cool to be a WOG, but it wasn't, you know, you weren't getting slandered. So I was on that, at 15 to 18, I was on that cusp of, you know, by the time I got to 18, it was cool to be a WOG, right? You know, but so the 15-year-old was a little bit nervous, a little bit more reserved. I grew up very quickly because my brother's 13 years older than me, my sister's 11 years older. I'm like, out of 20 odd cousins, I'm the second babiest. So I'm the second youngest. So I grew up with a lot of cousins. Like, one of my cousins is in their 70s. I've grown up with older people around me all the time. Very mature discussions, very close-knit family, a lot of care and love in the family. So I was a very warm, loving individual, very in touch with my emotions. I was never an arrogant little shit. I was confident. I had to be because my parents, my brother and sister both got married young. You know, my brother got married when I think was 8 or 9. My sister got married when I was 13, 12 or 13, which means I was like the interpreter for the family. I'd read all the letters that would come in, fill out any documents, you know. So I was quite mature, and growing up, mum taught me how to cook. Dad used to work Sundays, so I spent Sundays helping mum. I'd do the washing, I'd cut grass, I'd wash the cars, she taught me all that. So I'm very independent. Never been a womanizer, never saw my dad do that, never been in that position. I didn't grow up around that. I grew up around both my dad and my brother, who were the role models respecting women. My brother, I think, had one girlfriend before he met his then and current wife. He got married at 19. He got married at 20, twins on his 21st birthday. He's now 13 years old, so he's 63, still married. So the examples of men around me were, you respect women. Didn't see my cousins disrespecting women. So I was never around that. So I was never a womanizer. I was never... Dad's saying was, if you bring a girl home, she better be a serious girlfriend or you better want to marry her. So it was that sort of, so there was no bringing girls home at night and having whatever sort of fun was, young people want to do.
Were they quite strict parents?
No, they weren't strict. They were just very... Dad's model was always have fun.
No,
I can't even remember my parents hitting me, but but I didn't have to. Dad just look at you and be like, okay, I got this. Yeah, we know what's next. Yeah, but so yeah, it was interesting. It's a great question and something I really haven't spoken about in the past. But it was a good upbringing. The 18 me was actually quite nervous. I was at uni.
What were you studying?
I was studying commerce. So
Why?
Because I didn't know if I wanted to be a lawyer or an accountant, and then so I did commerce, which only Griffiths had at the time.
Why lawyer or accountant?
I used to love Matlock when I was 11 or 12 years old, and watching the shows. But professional services, I was always, you want to be a professional. Dad was always, you're going to be the first, cousin to ever go to university and get a degree.
So was he pushing you quite hard?
He was pushing me
to go to uni,
yeah, very hard. But I did
you want to go?
Yeah, I did. Okay. I did want to go, and then I fell in love with marketing. Loved it.
How?
At uni with commerce, we did politics, we did law, we did everything in the first year, 8 subjects, and then you branch off. And I just loved marketing. I loved the storytelling, the emotional connect. How do I derive an action? How do I I've got this product or service to sell. Here's the person. How do I join the dots? Which is now what I talk about. The person who emotionally engages the best wins, right? It's not the person with a better product or service. The product and service have got to solve a problem and be relevant. But it's the person who tells a better story. The person who's emotionally engaging that wins. I use Red Bull a lot as an example. That shit tastes like crap and it's going to kill you, right? But it's an amazing company because of the way they tell the story. I mean, they tell an amazing story. The way Louis Vuitton, we're living in a world of disposable income being the lowest ever, yet he's still in the top 5 richest guys in the world because people are buying those brands and they want it even when they can't afford it. So what drives that action? What's driving that emotional, step for people to take? That's the stuff I got interested in. Is how do you tell a story so compelling that people emotionally engage and choose you?
So you flipped and you dropped the lawyer and accounting?
Dropped the law and accounting. I did marketing, then I did HR as well. The art of, change management, managing people, organisational structure and design. All the practical HR, not the bullshit HR today, the woo-woo, the real strategic HR stuff, getting the best out of people, identifying people's needs, like Jim Collins talks about, setting up the seats of the bus and putting the right people on the bus. That's strategic HR. That's not people and culture. Hey, what's your problems? What do you need help with? And what program are we going to invent to make you feel better about yourself? Like, not that sort of stuff, right? Important, but that's people and culture. I love the strategic HR side. How do I make sure that I'm getting the best out of you, but you're getting the best out of your work situation as well? That you're meeting our needs, but work is meeting your needs. That's strategic HR. Are you sitting in the right seat of the bus? Do you have the right attributes, values, mindset for this role? Where do you want to be in 3 years' time in your own life? And how can I help you get there? This is all the stuff that I implemented when I built Develop Coffee. And people said, you built an amazing coffee company. I built an amazing people company. It was all about care. It was about people, whether it's our customers or our people, our 140 staff. I built an amazing people company. And that's why it grew to own 11% of the market share, became the biggest in the country. Scale is something that's a byproduct of getting everything right. You solve problems better, you be more relevant, and you tell a more engaging story. You will scale, whatever scale looks like.
So you're at uni?
Yeah.
You finish uni. When does this whole coffee obsession come in?
Well, I was working. There it is, right? I was actually working in Brisbane's first ever coffee house that roasted its own coffee. It used to be on Brunswick Street, Fortitude Valley, called Cosmopolitan. So I started there at 17, washing dishes.
Was it already a scene in Melbourne and Sydney though?
Melbourne was huge. Melbourne was...
So Brisbane
was way behind.
25 years.
Brisbane was about 10 years behind.
Yeah.
Right? And this...
Did you see the other states and go,
yes,
hang on?
Yes, I did. Not at that age. I fell into the coffee thing because I was working there while I was at uni.
So you were just working there. You didn't really have a passion. You were just
were
you making coffees?
I was making coffees. I was cooking, and then
just part time while you got uni done.
Yeah, part time, and then
When did it all?
Yeah, well, it was I started there in '93 when I started uni. Around '95 when I get into the heavy prac side of marketing at uni, we had to build. You had assignments. So one of the assignments was build a product, sell it, and build a client base. And I did it around the business where I worked. I said, right. And interesting enough, at the time, we used to roast and supply Merlot on Queen Street. So Cosmopolitan Coffee used to roast coffee for Dean Merlot when he had his cafe.
Rebranded?
And, you know, it was under his own name, but it was roasted by Cosmopolitan Coffee, right? And then he later on went and built his own and started, and he's done an amazing job, built a great little empire. But funny enough, where I worked, Cosmopolitan was the beginnings of Merlot and then DeBella coffee, because the owner just couldn't get stuff right, didn't do things the way he should have, didn't invest. So I ended up, what started off as an assignment, I built quite a substantial business for him on the wholesale side. He asked me to stay, obviously, full time. I did, and then he was getting pressure to sell me some shares or put me part of the business, and he wouldn't do that. So I had to make a decision in 2002: do I stay here or do I start my own? And I decided to start my own, and the rest is history, as they say.
So when did you realise you were onto something and it was going to be a big passion in your life?
When I was
were there times there where you thought, do I really want to be in the coffee business? I want to be in something more flash in the city. And
it started tough trying to get customers, but I believed, I had this unwavering, and I'd done it before in another place, and this time it was mine. Didn't have the resources or the branding, but got it started. The one that I really was when in 2005 when I said I'm going to go take on Melbourne, and that was scary because that's the big boys, right? They'd been serving great coffee in Melbourne since the 1960s. Brisbane really only started in the 90s, late 80s, 90s.
Why did you have to leave Brisbane though?
Well, because we actually outgrew Brisbane.
Okay.
And one of these, remember my ethos, tomorrow better than today. And complacency is the biggest killer of success, right? People get successful. So by 2005, we'd built a substantial Brisbane business. And then I was like, what's next? And I said, well, let's take.
So what was your role in the business then?
I was the managing director, right?
So you built all the way up from making coffees to...
Oh, when I left Cosmopolitan?
No, yeah.
I was running. I was a one-man band. I was doing the whole lot. I was getting.
You'd finished uni.
Finished uni, and
what were mum and dad doing? Were they going? Hey,
they're telling me to go.
What's going on?
Yeah, they're telling me to go work in the government.
And you're going, no, I'm gonna do this coffee thing.
Correct.
And are they sitting around a table going, Philippe?
Going into the government, and my brother-in-law who worked in the government, and he gave me some really great advice and said, government's not for you. I've been in government, and he was in government all his life. And when he left school 44 years later, he retired several years ago, but he was in government. He goes, government's not for you. You're an entrepreneurial thinker. You look at things different. You like to move at a different pace. Obviously you've known me since I was like 10 years old, right? He goes, government's not you. I can assure you, you won't last in government. Right.
So were you contemplating it?
Because of the safety and security.
Right,
because of your upbringing, it shapes your community, shapes you, right? Safety, security. Go work in government. I mean, you got a secure job, all this sort of stuff, right? And don't get me wrong, I think I would have done it well in government if I chose to, but I wouldn't have brought out the best in me. Wouldn't have brought out the ability to have an impact like I have in the coffee industry, and now not just Australia. I've done some cool stuff.
So what turned you to the point? What I'm trying to understand is, like, your parents are going, what are you doing? You should be in the government. Part of you is probably going, fuck, maybe I should be in the government. I'm just taking a risk on...
Yeah, I got comfortable with my worst case scenario, which is risk management I use now, still use. Is what's the worst case that can happen? Have a crack. If it doesn't work out,
in the government,
I got a good degree. I've got a degree that's in demand, and because marketing and that strategic HR is always in demand, still is, right, and always will be. Just different changes the way you go about it, but the concept of marketing and strategic HR and how I've explained it is always going to be in demand. So
what made you realise this is it?
This is it, as in I'm going to do it.
Yeah, like what was getting you up every morning? What were you going? I fucking love
being
this.
futuristic.
Yeah,
it's a good question because I have an ability not to look. If I'm facing a problem right now, I look 3 years beyond that problem and I go, all right, where do I want to be in 3 years? And if I want to be in that place, and I talk about outcomes versus goals because outcomes are a lot more measurable and definitive. What's the outcome in 3 years? All right, to get to that outcome, I got to deal with this problem. So I get excited about solving the problem I have today because I'm looking at 3 years down the track. I'm actually futuristic, look at it, feel it, sense it. And go,
what did you see?
I saw the ability to have, and I still can see it as plain as day because I'm a visual person. I said, I can be Australia's #1 coffee entrepreneur. It wasn't about Australia's #1 coffee guru. And it wasn't about the largest company. I can be entrepreneurial. An entrepreneur is doing things completely different to other people, going about things a bit different, and leaving a legacy and building an impact. And I can visualize, and I went, right, let's build an avatar. This is before it got fun to build avatars, right? This is 2000, 2001. I'm thinking like this. And I'm going, Lavazza, biggest brand in the world, still is. Number one brand, right? Their coffee's imported, so coffee should be a fresh product, da-da-da-da. Merlot, fresh product, making great coffee, because they were. McDonald's. Now, the McDonald's back then, systems, efficient, consistent, value. And I went, I'm going to be the person in the middle that has all three. I want Australia's number one brand. I want to be an amazing coffee. That means it mixes well with milk. You don't need to put sugar in your coffee. So I had all these outcomes focused. And I want to be the McDonald's of the industry, where I can deliver to you the same coffee time and time again at the best price possible. Not cheap, not expensive. And you can see how I talk about it. I'm so vivid, because that was the catalyst in 2001. Is that's what I'm going to build. And that's what DeBella Coffee stood for. It was Australia's number one brand. We ended up owning 11% of the market share, even though there was 2,000 competitors in the market. We were the best value. We weren't the cheapest or most expensive. And we're the first company to ever build what we called crop to cup, dealing direct with farmers, sourcing directly, paying them good money for the right product, and controlling the whole distribution from the farm right through until it got into your cafe. And then we'd obviously can help you with your training and all the rest of it. But the last part was the only part we didn't do, which was the transaction with your customer. And we built that system. And by the time I exited in 2017, 11% market share, Australia's biggest specialty coffee company, meaning that supplied cafes, not Woolworths and Coles and supermarkets, and a whole lot of intellectual knowledge and learnings from that process and journey. But it's that vision and being futuristic that I look at. Because when I would turn up and people go, but did anyone say yes to buying your coffee today? No, but they will. Why will they? Because I'm going to solve problems better than anybody else. I'm not going to solve a coffee problem. So in fact, within 6 months, I wasn't walking into cafes with samples. I was walking into cafes with a business card and saying, what are the biggest is the owner around? Yeah. Oh, here. Can I ask you what your biggest problem is in your cafe? What are you trying to sell me? Well, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I just want to know what the biggest problem is and see if my product and services can actually help you. Oh, staff training, and no one comes to service my coffee machine, and some idiot courier just drops off a box of beans and leaves it on the floor, And I went, all right. So if I rang you for your order, or came and saw you for your order and roasted fresh coffee, delivered it, rotated your stock, serviced your coffee machine, trained your staff, he goes, who does that? I said, well, that's what I want to build. You build that, mate, and you'll do well. And I started to get this from customers, right? So I had to change the vision for the company and what its purpose was going to be. I then had to build the products and systems to make me relevant. And then once I did that, I had to go and tell the story. And then what happened is the cafe owners normally hung around cafe owners, right? Or restaurateurs hung around with other restaurateurs. They would tell each other, hey, you should see this new coffee company. This guy's unbelievable. Comes in, takes my order. Right, 2 days later, my coffee turns up. He rotates the stock. He does this. He does that. He's helped me with marketing. He's given me some marketing ideas because of my background. He's helped me with some staffing stuff because he's got a strategic HR background. So I broke the whole mold in Australia. That wasn't just a bag of beans, and we actually registered those words. It's not just a bag of beans. And I broke that model. And I also ended up having Australia's largest coffee sales in cafes in comparison to the lowest sugar sales. There was only 2 companies that did sugar. And they said, you are the biggest coffee supplier to cafes, but you have the lowest sugar rating. Why? And I said, because we design our coffee to taste good in milk and doesn't need sugar. And that's because of the regions and the place that we sold. So we knew the product intricately. And what I say to people now is, you spend too much time on your product and your services and becoming an expert in that. And you need to be an expert. But for every moment you spend here, spend 3 on how to win with people. And same advice I've given the kids. They're both touchwood straight A students. I said, that's great, but you got to work 3 times harder to be good with people. Because I wasn't a straight A student. But I was taught how to win with people. I was taught how to communicate. I was put into positions where I had to communicate. And they were the game changer elements to me of my journey, and still are. Because I noticed that when things don't go right, it's poor communication. Whether that's with my wife, that's with my children, my team, it's poor communication. And that poor communication starts with me. And being accountable and responsible.
So 2002, I'm just getting this guy that's so passionate. Like, those fucking stories are amazing. And I'm just like, so what happens in 2002 to 2017? It sounds like 15 to 17, you're fucking done. You're burnt out, you're done, you're overweight. You've lost a bit with your wife, the family, the kids. Like, when did it all start sort of ripping you apart, and how did it rip you apart? Because you're obviously a smart man. Do you think you lost yourself in it?
Yeah, I did. I think it would have been probably officially 2010, 2012 when we became, let's call one of the biggest in its country in our space. And you're in demand and you're operating 100-hour weeks, and everyone wants a piece of you in a good way. You go, will you come and speak at this event and can we write this article about you? And BRW wants to put you in the rich list and fucking you're in this and you're that. And it all becomes this whirlwind, right? And as that whirlwind just gains momentum, I was never arrogant and believed, and thought I was better than anyone. It's never been a quality of mine. I've always been very humane, always given and worked with charities, and I've always gone and talked to school. I donate fees. Even to this day, I donate speaking fees. I don't take speaking fees. I get paid, but I get them to choose a cause of their choice, and then they donate it on stage. They donate the speaking fees, right? So I've never been in that side, but you do start to get caught up in this momentum wave. So I've been on a 10-foot wave, and I've never been a surfer, but been on a 10-foot wave and trying to get off it, and trying to get off it, right? And hang on, this thing's going and it feels good, but hang on, if I don't get off it, I'm going to crash at the shore, right? And being a strategic marketer, that's why I use a lot of analogies. Hang on. Oh shit, I know that I'm riding a 10-foot wave all the way to the beach, and if I stay on this, it's going to crash on that beach, but you know what, it feels fucking too good.
Do you ever feel like if you jumped out it might fail even?
Yeah, you think a house of cards. You sometimes look at it and go, is this too good to be true? And you start believing that you're the most important person in the link, and actually you're not. And again, what I know now is harmony, not balance. The amount of people that have driven themselves mad trying to create balance. So during that 2010 to 2014, 2015, I didn't have harmony. I was trying to chase balance, and it was worse. I was trying to be a great dad. I was trying to lose weight. I was trying to run a great business. And more pressure you put on yourself, the worse it becomes. And the bigger the tsunami became. And then it wasn't until I went, hang on, something's got to give here. And my doctor was a big catalyst for it. And he's still my doctor. And now he writes to me and goes, you're disgustingly healthy, and I love it, because I get my bloods done every 6 months. But back then, the wake-up call, it was 2013, 2014. You're the fittest fat fuck I know, mate. I had a boxing match at 167 kilos, right? I weigh 97 now.
You're that big?
Yeah, mate, 167, and I was fit as anything. Resting heartbeat of 52, 54 beats. Now it's resting in the 40s, right? I've even been down as low as 36. And he's going, mate, you're just not going to wake up one day. You're not getting any warning signs. And he's a brilliant doctor. He's more of a specialist than a doctor.
Do you believe it or not?
I did when he said that. And he goes, and then you had George Sklavos passed away, who built Q-Scan, and he passed away in his early 40s. And he goes, mate, don't let that be you. You got too much to live for. And I was just like, you got young kids. Then I went, you know what, you're right. Something's got to change. You've got to flip the model. Stop chasing balance, started chasing harmony. I said, what do I need to do to flip this so that it's not work, family, me, it's me, family, work. And selling was one of the catalysts. And, people go, did you sell for money? Well, I got paid well, but I was also netting 4.1 million a year. So we were making money. I sold for good money, but I didn't sell for money. I sold because I had to flip that model. And that was a big realization, right? That you go, hang on, I've created this, you think this startup in 2002, and obviously all the work that goes before starting up. But 2002, you get to 2014, you go, I've got to offload this because it's gonna kill me literally. And it's going to turn everything I value upside down.
Is it hard to sell?
It was, but again, that's where community comes in. You're going to have good people around you, right? Because you remember, normal people are having 60 to 70,000 conversations a day in their head, right? That's what they'll tell you. I'm not a psychologist. Entrepreneurial thinkers, I don't like the word entrepreneurs, but entrepreneurial thinkers, or those with a high level of entrepreneurial intelligence, are probably having over 100,000 thoughts a day. So one of my best mates is the notes on my phone or pen and paper. And I had to get out of that mindset and onto pen and paper and go, and I'd put the futuristic lens on and go, what does success look like? Right, I need to be fit and healthy. I need to have enough money to do what I want when I want, and I need to have enough time to do what I want when I want. And that's where that model came in this year, that I talk about, that triangle that I share with everybody. Draw a bloody triangle on the page, put health at the top, put time on one axis, money on the other, and if you've got enough time and money to do what you want when you want, and you've got your health, then you are successful. Don't measure it compared to anybody else. Don't measure it in materialistic. Life's measured in moments, not possessions. These are all the self mantras that I've used myself. Again, it comes naturally being a marketer. We talk in gibberish. We talk in emotional engagement. So I always talk, what matters to me? Moments. Life's
so
measured
you sell the business though. Obviously you get X amount of money and it's all over social media, so it's no secret. Forgetting all the money and everything else, Do you get a point where you just sit there and you're bored
Yeah.
and you're like worried that
Yeah.
because this is your beast and this is the cloth you're cut from? It's similar to people say to me, why don't you just run Boss Money and then I've decided to do a podcast. I'm doing other stuff and it's just cloth I'm cut from and I'll be dead eventually and I just do everything. But did you sit there? You've got all the money and.
Yeah.
Were you like?
I was like.
You obviously had a restraint of trade not to do it.
Yeah, and restraint of trade 5 years. Yeah, and that's a great question.
And what happens for a while?
The ideology was and nothing was going to waver from it. I'm going to get fit, right? That was number one, and I did. So 2017, as soon as I handed over those keys, from second half of 2017, it was all about me getting fit. Right?
You did nothing else though? What about?
No, I did. I stayed on and
mentally?
worked. This is what I did. I stayed on and worked, and people were like, "You didn't take any time off." No.
What sort of work were you doing?
I stayed till 2020 consulting for Retail Food Group. I didn't have to. I chose to, and I went on and I'm glad I did because I actually took a contract on their franchise side of their business. So I didn't stay. So I left Dabella and handed it to them. They had an agreement to rent all of our facilities and all the rest of it till the end of 2019, right? In the meantime, I worked on all of their franchise side things. I got to work on Michelle's Patisserie. We supercharged their coffee sales. Donut King, which is now their best performing. I worked on their coffee strategy for that. I tried to help them with Gloria Jeans, but they had too many revolving doors with different ideas and managers. But I just became a consultant, working 20 hours a week. But I never had time off. I never took the time off. But I got my health in order. I spent time. My base was school holidays off. So if I fast forward to what I was able to do and implement straight away in 2017, even though I still worked, was get fit and healthy, take all the school holidays off and spend it with the family, and then work. And overnight in 2017, when I handed back the keys, I was able to flip that model. And that was a very, very feel-good moment. But I didn't take time off. I didn't take extended leave. I have never had a long service leave. But I take 20 weeks a year off, right? For different reasons. I go do self-development. I go do retreats. I take kids, the family goes away, all that sort of stuff. But when you break it right down, it's. I think when you get so clear, when you combine ingredients like being futuristic, when you have good self-talk, when you have good community around you, when you have healthy kids, because I've got friends that don't have healthy kids, and I see the impact that has. Right, it's a disaster, and they do amazing work with that. But it comes at a cost, right? You can't. If you haven't got healthy kids or a healthy partner, your ingredients list is a lot different to somebody who does, right? So I've been very fortunate to have those things line up, and I've made the most of it, and that's something, and that's why one of my favorite sayings ever that I don't even think I've shared this on a podcast before, and one of the things I really do when I do my self-check-in, and I'm going to share it with you, Tom, is and your listeners, of course, am I doing the best that I can at the time that it's happening with the resources that I have? Right? Am I, and it's the key words, am I doing the best that I can
at the time
with the resources? And I've seen people, it's a game changer, right? And I've shared that one-on-one with people. I've spoken about it. I don't think I've spoken about it on a podcast before. If you use that as a self-regulating tool, or use that as a benchmarking of yourself or somebody else, is your staff member doing the best they can with the resources they have at the time? It is such a powerful paradigm to get the ego and emotion out of the way, because we don't do that enough, right? I've got a healthy ego, but I don't have a disastrous ego. I don't have an ego that is a disadvantage, right? Because I never think I'm better than anybody. My competition's me, no one else, right? I'm not emotional because I don't scream and yell when I get angry. I'm actually more balanced and quiet when I get angry. They say, Phil's getting passionate, you're in good hands. If Phil goes silent, you want to be asking what's wrong. Because it's just neat. So I control and regulate my emotions in that way. And I just go, well, it's a really good tool to check in. And I do it with myself all the time. Am I doing the best? And that's why people walk into my office and there's a sign that says, do more. And they go, haven't you done enough? I said, that sign's not just for me. That sign's for everybody else. I've done a lot, but I've had the capability and resources around me. I've had good people around me. I've had good team members around me. I've had healthy family, healthy kids. I haven't had any disasters, touch wood, in that area. So I'm very grateful. I'm grateful for that, and I feel fortunate for that. But I've capitalized on it. I haven't. When some people get so many. Imagine turning out to a buffet of food, and then someone walks away and goes, "I'm hungry." Well, you're hungry because you didn't show up. You showed up, but you didn't take the food off the table and you didn't eat it, so you didn't do the work. But you've got the resources. I've been fortunate enough to be, around the right resources, and I sure as hell wasn't going to let myself get in the way of myself. And even now, I'm chasing impact. I was asked this the other day at a speaking gig, what's next for you? I mean, 50 is still young. And I said, how can I help others accelerate their potential?
Do you think, in all honesty, is DeBella better off today without you or not?
The company?
Yeah.
It's different.
And the coffee?
It's different.
Isn't the coffee's just as good?
I haven't tried it for a long time.
Why is that?
Well, I just haven't, because it's not, they moved the model. DeBella became a manufacturing brand based in Sydney that supplies all of their franchises, and they still supply some cafes and restaurants. But I haven't actively gone in a scene where they stock it and gone and tried it. I've got no problems doing so. I'm not attached to it. People ask, the number one question was, how do you feel about this? I said, my brand is Philip DeBella. My brand is not DeBella Coffee, right? Like I don't get attached to things. I've been fortunate enough to drive nice cars. Like, oh, which car do you miss? None of them. Because I sell them when I want to sell it, and I buy it if I want to buy it, and I don't get attached to materialism.
Nice.
Then I own them, they don't own me, right? It's not my status. It doesn't show a status. I grew up in shitty old cars. I used to know the RACQ breakdown number off by heart. So I grew up going, that's not going to be me. And don't get me wrong, brand new cars can break down too, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, that's not going to be me, right? So I grew up with this desire and burn to love cars, but the fire and desire and burn was to go and make something of myself to be able to afford them, not expect somebody to hand it to me.
So tell me, I'll go to the business side. What have we got? Big 5 minutes. You'll get a bit in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
What about my daughter's starting a new business?
Yeah.
Won't tell you what it is. It shouldn't matter really.
Doesn't.
What's your number one tip? What do you think? Now, what do you think people are doing wrong?
They're not differentiating their product offering tailored to the unmet needs of a customer. They don't, meaning, I'll shorten it, they build businesses from the inside out through their ego and emotion. A chef cooks the food he wants or he or she wants to eat, not the food that the customer is prepared to pay for or can afford. There's your analogy in one. Whether you're building a service or a product-based business, what are the unmet needs out there in the marketplace, and how are you going to build that entire business ecosystem from the outside in, meaning around the unmet needs of a customer? If you don't have if you're not feeling, so people come to me and go, I'm opening a cafe. To do what? What's self-explanatory? That's the problem. There's 26,000 of them in Australia. What are you opening a cafe for? What problem are you going to solve? What unmet need of a client are you going to solve? What products are going to make you more relevant? And then how are you going to tell a better story? It comes back to that paradigm of success that I talked about. Not the life success, but the business success. The businesses who succeed and have succeeded, whatever level, can be micro, small, or medium. It's not all about multi-million-dollar turnovers. The businesses that are really best in class and doing the best in what they do with the resources they have are the ones that have solved problems better than the competitors, build products and services more relevant, and then go and tell a better story. So to your daughter, you want to be sitting there and going, who's my customer? What are their unmet needs? Why? Simon Sinek talks about the why. Why should they buy me? And then how and what am I going to do? Mine is not why, how, what, which is Simon Sinek owns that. Mine is problem, relevance, marketing.
Love it. Last question. So I'm going to open the door.
Yes.
I'm going to get 18-year-old Felipe in here.
Yeah.
He's sitting right here.
Yeah.
You've got 1 minute with him.
Yeah.
What are you going to say to him? Knowing where you are today, you're 50, he's 18.
Love it.
Here's what he was.
Love it.
What are you going to say to him?
I'm going to say to him, your quality is futurism and being futuristic, but that quality, your strength can be your weakness. A scalpel can be used by a surgeon to actually, save a life, or a scalpel can be used by a thief to hurt somebody. Being futuristic is great because you can see things that other people can't see, and you'll be able to execute things that others can't. But slow down. Don't build the 10-story building by missing the foundations underground, by making sure each floor is completely secure. If you're building and you're going to build an empire, then the empire needs to spend a lot of time in the ground building the foundations. Build those strong foundations, then go to level 1, then go to level 2, and then build every level strong rather than supercharging. Because there was a few times that DeBella nearly fell over because we were going too fast. We blew up QuickBooks in 2009. We weren't looking at the back end systems going, can these systems keep up with what we're doing? We ran out of money because we were self-funding all of the new customer base. But we were putting competitors who were doing really well, 7 accounts a month. We were doing 7 accounts a week. Each account was 15 grand to put on. You didn't break even until 6 months. So we ran out of cash, right? Because I was self-funding, great balance sheet, cash flow. Or because I didn't plan strategically each level of the building as we went. And that's what and then do that in personal life. Don't rush things. Don't rush with your partner. Don't rush to get married. Don't rush to have kids. Don't rush. Everything's not a rush. Pause. Be grateful. I've only learned that in the last decade. The ability to stop, look in the revision mirror, be grateful, admire it, take the learnings, go again. That's what I'd be telling the 18-year-old self.
Lovely. Mate, that was so good.
Thanks for having me.
Totally different to where I thought it would go. It was,
well, I wanted to share. I've never gone that deep on certain stuff.
No, it's awesome. I loved it. I loved all that stuff about you as a kid.
And I don't talk a lot about that because I don't get asked, right? Everyone wants to go straight to the success of business. But they don't realise that success of business is, call it the 20 story.
Yeah.
But the stuff we talked about here is you got foundations to level 10.
Well, that's the best part.
Where
does someone go from Dad wants you to do marketing, do this, and you're going, no, this is what I'm going to do. There's a battle there that would have been great to see as a fly on the wall. But that last part was special. Like, slow down. At least you can see that. You can look back and go,
I tell my kids,
fuck. I mean, that almost tells me you're on the fucking edge for so long.
Oh, yeah.
Like, to the brink.
Yeah, mate. I tell you, I'm getting on that plane in little lovey next doors going, are you a nervous flyer? No, I'm just fucking getting anxiety because I've been going for 3 days or 3 weeks, and now I'm going to go home, and the mind's going relax, and the body's going, fuck you. Well, you're not relaxing. You've got all this adrenaline, and you're shaking, and you think I'm a nervous flyer. I'm not a nervous flyer. I'm just fucking anxious. Like it's just like and breathing and yeah, mate. I took it to the edge. Yeah, I took it to the edge, and and even with relationship, I've done that several times. I said, I've actually lived out of home twice. Over the the 20-year period we've been married, I've been out of home twice, but we've always gotten on better because I had to stop, I had to reset, I had to slow down.
Did you ever get really depressed? Do you think you've ever been depressed or?
No, but there would be times
not depends
when you clarify depression, where I'm feeling down and sad, and I've never had suicidal tendencies. I've never had I don't want to be here thoughts. No, that's never, and I'm grateful for that. Touch wood. Have I felt low? Yeah, totally. The lowest I ever felt.
Yeah, what's the lowest?
I'll tell you the lowest I ever felt. And people can Google this, but when it was really fucking low time, really low time. I was flying. We were flying as a company, and the company wanted to start entering all these awards, and we did, and I won all these different awards. And I said to them, guys, I want you to enter a DeBella Coffee Award, And they did. They entered the Telstra Business Awards. They did it all off their own bat. They filled out the forms. They had nothing to do with it. Nothing. Right? I didn't even get interviewed. There you go. I didn't even get interviewed for it. Anyway, we win. A proud moment. I get everyone up because it's their award. It says DeBella Coffee on the award. Then there's a state of origin game. And like every state of origin, I have a few drinks with a few mates, and not that it's an excuse. And we commentate about it. We're on our social media, the fucking Blues, and, Phil Gould's a cocksucker, and blah, blah, blah. And, well, this particular time, what had happened was my Indian team, because I still have business in India, I'd never had a Twitter account in my life, but unbeknown to me, they'd set up a Twitter account under my name, and they linked it to my Facebook account. And, of course, this is back when Twitter, that's what the politicians all used. And I was sitting on boards for the Premier, I was sitting on boards, so
Campbell, just all this
Campbell and Graham Quirk, you can see where this is going.
Fuck.
Anyway, I think nothing of it. The next morning, here I'm thinking it's my closed Facebook page. Next morning, the phone starts ringing, and and I'm thinking ABC radio and this and that, leaving messages. Get a text message from Campbell Newman, who's the Premier at the time. He goes, I think you need to ring me. 2012 this was. I ring him and he goes, what the fuck were you doing last night? I said, I was doing what I always do, a few drinks, proud Queensland. He goes, mate, it's all over the news about, and I've been getting phone calls left, right and centre. It's like 7:30 in the morning. I'm getting phone calls left, right and centre, and so is Graham, who was the Lord Mayor of Brisbane, of why we've got somebody like you sitting on boards and in responsible positions, because you went on a gay, they didn't say anything about gay at the time. They said, you went on this crazy rant and swearing. And oh my God, he goes, fix it, DeBella. So I rang Ian Skippon at the time, he was on Triple M. And I said, Skip, I need a favour. He goes, no worries. He goes, no worries, I've seen what's happened. So I went live radio and said, look, I apologise, that's not appropriate behaviour. Somebody, I've got no excuse, I'm not going to blame alcohol. Yep, I did do it. Me, I own it. If I've offended anyone, I completely apologise. It's terrible. Blah, blah, blah. Dies down. Week later, it sparks back up. I'm homophobic. Some prick journo at the Brisbane Times, some two-bit newspaper, online digital starts ramping it up. I'm homophobic. Gays are offended. They're going to boycott your coffee. Telstra started to see this momentum. By then, they'd already judged I didn't know this, but they'd already judged who was going to win nationally because we'd won Queensland. Anyway, get a phone call from them, show cause why we shouldn't strip you of the award. I said, well, firstly, it's not my award, it's the company's award.
Mm.
I said, and I've already apologised publicly and da-da-da-da-da. And they said, we'll make a decision, get back to you. And I never forgot, I started doing business in the Philippines. We were supplying a massive group in the Philippines and school. We're doing some really cool stuff over there. And got on a plane, excited to get there. I arrive, turn on the phone, and message from my wife. They just stripped the team of the DeBella Coffee Award because of your actions. And I just couldn't speak.
Oh, you would have been.
I've never been so low in my life, ever. I couldn't speak. I couldn't even respond to her. I hung up. I'm in the car. I start crying.
I was going to
The
ask,
driver's
yeah.
like, are you okay? Is somebody passed away? Because they knew me, because we used to do business with them. They were picking me up. I said, I just can't speak. It takes me to the hotel. I remember checking in, walking in the door, dropped my bags, and just flopping on the bed in tears. And when I look back and assessed it, and I didn't tell the team that, I didn't tell my wife that, I don't think I told her, I don't think I told anybody. And I just went, you've let down the team that says help you create magic. And that's all I remember thinking. It wasn't me, it had nothing to do with me. I didn't give a shit about me. It was.
But they copped it.
They copped because of my actions. And if there's any leaders that that you've got to understand, you're not just responsible for yourself, you're responsible for a team. And that's the lowest I've ever been because I let the team down and it wasn't their fault. It was my actions that derived that, and that made me feel like shit. But then again, my quality, I'm futuristic. I just, it took me a few days, snapped out of it. Did a video recording to the entire team, absolutely apologising. They saw the vulnerability in me. They saw how much I meant it. They were writing to me going, boss, we don't need no fucking award to tell us how great we are. But I was like, that's not an excuse. Leaders have got to be, that's the responsibility of leadership. Are you going to fuck up? Yeah. To what extent is it going to affect? We never know. And that was the lowest. I'll never forget. That is the lowest I've ever been in a position because I've had good fortune in terms of I haven't had love, except my godchild committed suicide in his 30s. That was extremely sad. But I haven't had loved ones die early on me or besides that situation. So I've had a pretty fortunate journey. And that really hurt. But there's a lot of learnings in that.
This too shall pass.
This too shall pass. And, and I never gave him the fucking award back. I left it in the office, in the main office. Yeah, and
it's still there. Where is it today?
Well, they go, no, well, bloody RFG threw all that shit out. Pricks. But anyway, but people used to come in and go, I thought they stripped you of that. Well, they can't. It has got my name on it. I said it was me. And I used to always say to people, it was me that did the wrong thing, not the company. And so we left it in the admin on purpose. And I said it was me that did the wrong thing. It wasn't the company didn't do the wrong thing. I did the wrong thing. And
lesson learned.
Yeah, lesson learned. And there's stories written about it at the time.
That's not bad for a low though, is it? When you look at your life and what you've been through,
it doesn't make it right, but
no.
It's certainly not a bad. And that's why everything's got a digital footprint. Be careful what you say and what you do. And that's a fine line too, Tom, because you want to keep it authentic.
That's the thing.
You want to keep it real, but you've got to be, the right dialogue, right conversation at the right time too. I mean, and that's not always been my forte, but
look, and the world's a lot more sensitive today than it ever was when I was growing up.
Yeah, it is. I mean, so
just watch. Just want to let you know Patricia's in the Riverside.
All right,
that was great.
Thank you, sir.
Maybe 5 minutes. You can,
Oh, we're good anyway.
Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you, mate.
I really enjoyed that because that was
stuff
that, I was
hoping you would.